If you total the watch hours that I have last year on my YouTube channel, and you can find all this in YouTube Studio, analytics, it equals to close to about 15 years of prospecting.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and my guest today is Soomin the Human Kim. How you doing, Soomin?
Great, Remington. Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
What's Soomin the Human all about? Just rhymes and you like it?
Yeah, well, people look. It's funny because I realize my name is not ubiquitous and all over, and I got to find ways where people can say, hey, how do I pronounce this? How do I not pronounce this? So hey, Soomin rhymes with human, but with an S, right?
I love it, man. Well, Soomin's got a killer story. He actually got his license in November of 2020, which when people hear that, I think probably most don't put together what was going on at that time. They think, okay, pandemic, real estate market, and they think about like what's been going on now, and they think to themselves, oh, that was probably a terrible market. But actually, during that time, the market was pretty hot for like 6 months to a year right after that, before it started to go down. And so what's interesting to me about your story, Soomin, is you actually entered at a really big, high, crazy point, and now have seen the drastic turn in a short amount of time. So I want to talk to you about that, because you closed over 160 million, number 2 in EXP as a brand new agent with zero traditional effort. You built a lot of your business off of YouTube. So plenty of really cool things to talk about. I love your branding, cool hat. Where should we start? Let's start with your first year in real estate being right after the pandemic. Tell me about that.
So, I mean, ultimately, my story is one of many people's. In the middle of the pandemic, I decided to upend my entire family and leave a state to which I was essentially raised, lived there almost my entire life. And mid-pandemic, we said, hey, let's go and let's relocate. So I took myself, my wife, my 2 children at the time, and we chose to leave the West Coast of California and go and relocate to Texas. I was scouting Texas for a little bit. I was kind of choosing in between what Dallas would look like or living in Austin would look like. We essentially went with Austin. Mid-pandemic, picked up my family, packed a few pods, and got here over to Austin. I got here, and I actually didn't consider at the time that I would head into real estate. I was kind of doing some, online marketing, some e-commerce things. And it wasn't until I got here where I was like, you know what? That was adrenaline filled, right? In every aspect, right? Getting your family, picking them up, and then taking them to a new state. Now, my kids at the time were a little bit younger. They were 7 and 3. Now they're 10 and 7. And then we also have a 9-month-old now as well. So
yeah,
it
Bobby told me. So you guys you're like, you know what? It's been 7 years. Let's do it again.
Might as well, right? No, I think Texas has a lot to do with it, though. I mean, we left because we wanted a change of pace, change of environment. And I think we found what we were looking for. And as we settled here, we felt like, hey, maybe there's a possibility for another one. But I did get here, and it wasn't until I got here that I looked back and I realized, oh my gosh, like that was emotionally, physically, financially, in every way, exhausting in some ways, right? And then I turned around, I think there's a bunch of other people doing the same thing right now. And as I looked into the data and the statistics, I'm like, wow, everyone's doing it, So it was until then I was like, you know what? I want to be able to serve those people, because I don't know if there is someone right now here in this market that can really share that story in this profession and be able to kind of relate to everyone that's doing that same thing. So I just said, hey, look, let me get my license here. I don't know how it's going to end up, but there's a part of me that really depended on our realtor, that really depended on that person, not just to procure a property, but ultimately to kind of be somewhat of a therapist and a counselor throughout the entire process. And I said, who better to do it than someone that's just gone through it with their family? And so that was my thought process when getting licensed.
Yeah. What were you doing before?
I've always been an entrepreneur, Remington, for sure. Like, I think it's been like 15 to 20 years since I've had like some sort of a W-2 from a corporation, So it's always been startups, marketing. I've been involved in network marketing before, direct sales, e-commerce, all of it, and the thing I was doing prior to real estate was everything working from home. So I had a couple online brands, online retail stores, and ultimately just all things online,
So since you've gotten into real estate, have you put all of those things aside, or are you still side hustling with those products and companies?
Well, initially you're always hedging yourself, right? If you're trying something new, just in case it doesn't work out, let's see if I can let's just continue to do this on the side and let's see if this works out. Ultimately, it was 4 or 5 months in where I thought to myself, oh man, I probably need to get rid of this, and it was kind of on its
Yeah.
decline anyways, and on anything online, if you don't keep up with it, if you're not keeping up with the latest updates and, all things Facebook ads and Apple iOS, all that stuff, if you don't keep up with it, you're going to end up kind of burning through money, with ads. So
Yeah.
for me, I said, look, if my mind isn't there and my focus isn't there, I got to move on. And so I did put all that to the side once I saw some traction with real estate.
Well, you're a serial entrepreneur, and sometimes what we find in someone who's got that tick is that they get bored very easily. And you've been in real estate for 4 years now, almost 4 years. Do you feel like you could get bored and want to move on, or does real estate have enough avenues to where you can reinvent yourself?
I think essentially it was the latter that I was concerned about. I thought to myself, man, what if at the end of the day, it's a sales position, you're out there, and how much adrenaline can you get from that year after year? For right now, I feel great. I love what I do. I always tell people, and a lot of people say that, but here's what I mean by say when I love what I do. When I wake up in the morning, because of the endeavors that I'm being a part of with these individuals and my clients, it's like I have to wake up with a ton of adrenaline, and it gets me going because these are very consequential and critical decisions that they have to make. I mean, what bigger endeavor do you have financially in life, materialistically, than the purchase of a property? That means all things for your family, your children, all of it. So it's like I wake up pretty pretty motivated, and I have a ton of adrenaline.
Yeah.
I think for me, and maybe that will lead to a transition that we can talk about later. But for me, I do believe I have more effectiveness and impact after now a little over 3 years in real estate, for me to help many people and work with many people to break through and to maybe utilize some of the strategies I've been able to utilize. That excites me now more than just saying I'm going to go get my own.
Are you talking about other realtors or
Yeah.
okay? So you've been doing like coaching and consulting other realtors.
Yeah, well, my brokerage does reward for us to help build the brokerage, and one of the
Okay.
things that a lot of people are obviously coming over to our particular brokerage for many reasons. But the reason they're reaching out to me is because they heard my story and they want to be able to utilize some of the strategies that I've been able to do, and no one's able to teach them, and the more calls I get at least 5 a day from other agents. The more I have these conversations, I realize there's a place for me in being able to help many, than there is just for me to go out there and try to sell another 114 homes in a year,
Yeah, and you're at EXP, right? So EXP is interesting because it kind of you think about the parallel things that you enjoy about a multi-level marketing company where you can sell product or recruit, and there's different avenues of how you can go about building your business, those two being the main revenue sources. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way EXP, KW, some of the other ones have constructed their business model to where, you can kind of, if I don't want to say like if you're having a down month in sales, like start recruiting, but ultimately like there's many different ways of making your money. And it all comes down to you being at the center of it as a source of knowledge in the industry, which is, I think, kind of what you thrived in your other businesses.
Absolutely. I think that, the truth be told, I would do the same thing in any brokerage. If you put me in any other brokerage, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Compass, KW, any of these wonderful brokerages out there, I would do the same thing. I would invite people to the brokerage if they're looking for a place in the home for real estate. I would do as much as I can to sell and do as much as I can individually. These are all things that I would do regardless. Fortunately for me, I happen to be part of a brokerage that rewards on those levels. And as an entrepreneur, I need that because ultimately one of the drawbacks that always kept me away from real estate, Remington, was the fact that as an entrepreneur, we're always thinking about leverage and we're always thinking about exit plans, right? And ultimately, the profession of real estate is probably the stereotypically opposite of that. It's essentially people that are depending on another sale up until forever. You can make money and then you over leverage your lifestyle in some ways. And now you have to keep that lifestyle up. And now we have agents that are, sometimes in their 70s and 80s still trying to sling another deal. And as an entrepreneur, that doesn't excite me. That's like, well, where's the exit plan? I understand you can make active income, but how do you walk away? How do you have freedom in the future? And this brokerage happened to answer that for me. And so as
So,
an entrepreneur, it helped me to buy in.
but you're pretty young and you're pretty new. So what are you, it's cool that you're already focused on the exit plan. I think most people wait until they get there and it's too late. So
Mhm.
like what in a perfect scenario, what would that look like for you, an exit plan?
Well, what that would look like is my fear is that I'm always looking ahead to look back. What I mean by that is even as a real estate agent, let's say I look ahead 5 years and 10 years, what do I have to show for it? And if the only thing I have to show for it is that I got paid a commission at the time I closed a particular property, that's not going to be enough for me as an entrepreneur. Now, as someone that's just trying to get their bills paid, wants to generate some income, that's fine. But long-term entrepreneurial, that's not going to work out. And so for me, what that looks like is when the brokerage says, if you help us to grow and it exponentially grows from there, and there's override on that, then that's something I'm going to participate in as well. So when I look back, I don't want to just close transactions and help serve my clients and properties. I also want to build what I call a dripping faucet, doesn't mean I have to focus on 100%, but if I can have something that's collecting water or collecting, another form of residual, another form of income while I'm producing, then why wouldn't you? And
Yeah.
so obviously I earn more from the procuring and sales of real estate and property and helping clients that way. But passively, what I'm doing is I'm building out right now what we call a revenue stream, a revenue share stream, from the override and the brokerage's cut of those who I've invited and sponsored into the brokerage.
Yeah, I love it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure YouTube has helped with that. That's been your main source of, I read your bio at the beginning. You didn't know Living Soul in Austin, created a YouTube channel and did the math and realized that was a big source of revenue for you based on real estate sales. So how do you do that? How do you create a YouTube channel and convert that into real estate sales?
Ultimately, like anything, Remington, you find someone that's done it, knows how to do it, that has a passion for teaching it or is gifted in teaching that. And that person for me was a gentleman in Canada. When I finally got licensed here in Texas, I interviewed several brokerages, I think like 12 to 13 brokerages. I just wanted to see what they would say. But one thing that I did go into is I always wanted to tell myself I want to go into any endeavor with my eyes wide open. And I found that real estate, it's a very high failure rate. And I've realized that most of the influence of training in this profession, those that are team leaders and brokerage owners and office leaders, I realized they happen to be successful and become successful in a different era. Whether it's the late 80s, late 90s, early 2000s, they all became successful in these earlier eras where communication and mediums were a lot different. And so these are the same individuals that are teaching new agents today. And so when you ask every agent what they've been taught, across the board, it's the same thing. It's cold calling, it's door knocking, it's calling expired listings, calling FSBOs, finding a big church and telling everyone in the church congregation that you're a real estate agent, whatever, and it's these very traditional
and the bulletin.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I asked every whatever recruiter and broker leader. I said, how are you going to train me? What am I going to learn? I'm brand new. What do I have? And it wasn't until I came across this guy, Mike Sherrard, says, listen, Soomin, those methods, not that they don't work, they happen to be quote unquote tried and true. They're just not efficient anymore. And if you can go directly to consumers and people out there seeking information, then you're going to not only able to succeed, but you're actually going to be able to overstep the people that have been doing this for a long time, should you choose this path, And so this is the only gentleman that said something completely different. He just happened to be in Canada. And again, it all kind of comes full circle.
How'd you come across him?
I found them online, and I don't recall, a lot of people do, and I don't recall what I was searching, but I think it had something to do with social media, maybe video marketing, real estate. And it wasn't that he's told me anything new. He just told me what I already believed, And so that haunted me. And I always thought I have to partner with someone locally here in Texas that needs to buy me coffee and ride along with me and give me a hug when things don't go right. But I happened to end up working with someone in a full different country and partnering with them in this brokerage. And I think the beauty of the pandemic was that it did speed up that process, like the fact that we're doing Zoom now and Zoom has become a part of our lifestyle. Most people go from corporate office spaces to virtual. I feel like that took away the fear of this idea that I'm partnering with someone geographically, not in my local market.
Yeah. So then you started your YouTube channel. And it took, did it take off? I mean, let me ask you, like, how long before you actually started getting traction, and what was the content?
You know, just take a step back. Before my wife and I decided to move from California here to Texas, like we would put our kids down to bed and then we would spend the next few hours together watching YouTube videos, and there were YouTube videos from other realtors. So in my mind, I was like, man, I am actually grateful that they're putting out this content and data. And we just ate every bit of it up. I mean, Remington, I'm talking about like beautifully high production videos, but then going to the parts of real YouTube and videos that are just blurry and not great quality, but just someone talking about some semblance of what to expect when you relocate here. I remember just watching a blurry video of a girl that relocated her family to Texas, and she's talking about the Mexican food here, and we're just like watching every second of this. And I even remember watching a video of someone just driving through the streets of a particular city in Austin with their camera up. And I was glued to the screen because I wanted to see if I can find something to expect when I get there. Yeah. And so for me, it wasn't a question of YouTube going to be effective. It was a matter of how do I get up there? How do I get in there? And I had my insecurities for sure. I'm a brand new agent. I look different, like I have, I obviously am a minority, and I thought maybe they're not going to respect me because I haven't lived here. I'm not a fourth or third generation Austinite. I'm not a quote unquote true Texan. But what happened was I ended up carrying the flag for everyone that was planning and was going to do something similar to which I did. Huh. And we know from, looking back now in 2021, 2022, it was historic for how many people relocated and left specific states to move into different states,
And so you felt like that gave you a leg up on people who had been in the city for a while.
Right. Because look, let's be real. Like where I lived in Southern California, it was a county called Orange County. I was about 10 minutes from PCH by Huntington Beach. So the ocean was near, it's the most mild probably climate in the entire world, like 75-degree year round. So for someone to leave that and to go to Austin, Texas, that is a unique experience. And so when people find me, they say, Soomin, you left. What do you see in Austin that has allowed you to be happy there, from where you left? And that type, and someone that necessarily is a local here in Texas or has lived here their whole life, or their grandparents settled here and pioneered this area, they don't know that experience. All they know is what they know, which is awesome. Every square corner and inch of Texas, that's great, but they do not have that personal experience and that perspective of what I see in Austin as compared to somewhere as unique as Orange County.
Yeah, the political climate seemed to, for the last 5 years, at least the optics show that people are leaving California and going into Texas. People are leaving Illinois and going to Indiana, a couple other places. Do you find that a lot of your relo is coming directly from California?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the top three right now. Number one is going to be not just California, but Northern California. So the 512 area code, Silicon Valley, Bay Area. And you don't imagine this is going to really help Austin because Austin is becoming a serious tech hub. Apple is stationed here, Tesla's here, Samsung, Dell, Facebook, TikTok is here. All of that is here. And so when you look at Silicon Valley, number one, these are individuals that were tied to an office space, living in proximity to where they worked. And they're paying well over 7 figures for a small town home with a patio, and now they're granted remote access or remote work. And they're looking for a place where they get more space, more bang for their buck, more better cost of living, different pace of life for their family. So why not go to an area where there's other tech companies? So which in any case, if something were to happen to their position with their specific corporation or their job or company, they can just go next door and utilize, their talents, so they felt really safe of kind of traveling and relocating to Silicon Valley, number two. So number one is Northern California. Number two is Washington, and then from there, we're looking at just Chicago and New York. So yeah, I mean, if we're talking politically, we are seeing the numbers show, many people relocating from, let's say, blue states into, the red states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and as you mentioned, Indiana and Idaho.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating, man. So, okay. So to get back to what you're doing with YouTube, it's cool that, I'm seeing that like your interest into real estate was because you really appreciated what your realtor did. You feel like you can duplicate that. Your desire to get onto YouTube was because you used YouTube, like you actually were the consumer. And I wonder if that gave you a leg up, like both those things, because some people say, hey, how do I get rich and famous in real estate. Okay, well, Suman's on Instagram and on YouTube. I should be on Instagram and YouTube. And they don't actually go through and watch the content. They just start doing the content. And I bet that hurts them. So you come in and you say, I'm just going to immerse myself in this. Oh, I can do this. I can actually do this better, and I can do it a lot. And I'm on your YouTube page, and it is a lot of views, really high quality. And you can see you've moved along with the trends of like what to put on the covers. So walk me through the progression of when you first got into YouTube, because I'm guessing it's changed the last 3 years as well.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I wanted to do was I knew that I needed to connect to the individual watching. And what I mean by that is there's content and there's connection. And if you can get both, and then you can find results and you can have success. A lot of people put out really good content. So you're like, wow, I got all this market report from this person. Wow, they told me all about this and that. And you take that content or that information. But if you don't connect with that individual, you're actually just going to take that content and keep it to yourself, and you're going to go find someone that you connect with to work with, right? So there's plenty of real estate agents that are putting out content that are actually helping other agents, for me, I knew that. And so what I wanted to do more than anything was I wanted to connect to individuals right away. I knew that if there was an empathetic human connection from going from a real estate professional to just, hey, another husband, another father, another individual, another individual doing this, then there's going to be relatability there. So that's what I did right away. It was a really crappy video. It wasn't even the best edited video, but what was the content of the video? The content was why 5 reasons why we chose the specific city to live in, and
why do you feel like it was, what made it crappy? What do you feel like it wasn't good?
It just wasn't edited properly. At the very end, I ended up putting a filter over it that I couldn't undo. But the video was like already 20 minutes in, and I'm like, dude, there's no way I am gonna reshoot that video. Filter or no filter, I'm just gonna use it. So it has a kind of really soft filter, a white filter, kind of an overexposed filter on it. But I went with it because I knew at the end of the day, remember, Remington, I was watching bad videos before, and just trying to pick out the meat of these videos. And so I'm like, this is actually better than even the bad videos I was watching. It's good enough, right? And they're going to bypass that because they're going to hang on the words that I have to say as someone who's been doing it and done it. So I did that. I wanted to, before I did anything about market reports or MLS or properties or inventory or months on market, I wanted to just say, hey, my name is Soomin. Let me tell you what I just did. I moved from here to here with my family. Here's what I discovered. Here's also why we chose this place to live. Here's the 5 things that really drew me to this place. And I wanted to do that, and I did. And that allowed me to connect. The moment I felt like I was getting some subscribers and getting a connection to these individuals that are coming to this channel, then I started going more into the real estate content, showing homes. At the end of the day, Texas and the place that I'm in the suburbs of Austin is really known for expansion and new construction. So knowing those are the advantages of this particular area, I wanted to expose that and highlight that here, and I would do it probably differently in any city you drop me off in. I would just figure out what I believe the competitive advantages of that particular area in real estate and expose that, and here it happened to be new construction. So I went with that. There's a ton of model homes here that are very appealing for people to see and view, and sometimes if there's a fear of relocating from one place to another, there is one magnetic draw that helps people alleviate all that risk and fear. And that's this vision of a beautiful new home, and once they had that vision of a beautiful new home, they're willing to take the risks and they're willing to, bypass the fears, to get into a new area if it means that they can have that home.
So one of the fears of, like, I would think any leader within a company or real estate would be how much time their people are spending on social media, just period, right? Mm-hmm. But what we found, especially in real estate, is that it has become a big revenue builder. What is your formula for when you go to look at, like, hey, these are the videos we want to put out, this is how long we want them to be, this is every other video is going to have this in it? Like, do you actually go and map out what your weekly content's going to be?
I used to, in the beginning, because I didn't have as many clients. So people ask me, well, what'd you do in the beginning? I just woke up and thought about content like that. You know what? I have a great idea. I'm going to do a content about new construction versus resale, pros and cons, property taxes. Maybe I can do one about mixed use and development in certain areas and how that affects value of a home. I thought about all that stuff. And in the beginning of my first 6 months to a year, Yes, I mapped out a ton of content. We call it batching content, where I'll do like maybe create like 5 to 6 videos in a week, and then release it maybe one or two at a time in a week. But
Yeah.
today, once I started getting a lot of traction with clients. It became harder and harder. That's actually why I actually enjoy right now this season that we're in with a little bit of a challenging market, especially in a quarter 4, which tends to be a down market anyways for most people. It's allowing me to kind of go back to the roots and start creating content. So I've done that. In the past couple of weeks, I started making some new content.
So then what's next for you? I mean, it seems like YouTube is big. I'm following you on Instagram now, so you got one more follower. Congrats. What's the next stage of your building? Because you're already, I mean, 160 million is no joke. Are you looking ahead to other social media platforms, or what's next?
Yeah, I think the benefit, or again, the reason why I choose the environment in the group that I did was that fact that I have a couple partners that I really trust that no longer sell homes, and they're simply focused on what is next. So right now they're really excited. They're really big on how to utilize and how to leverage AI for all things real estate. So right now I think AI.
Yeah.
I mean, here, look, in 2 years, YouTube and Instagram might not be it, but I guarantee whatever it will be the first group and team that's on top of it. For me today, my it's kind of 50-50 right now for me. It used to be like 90-10, 80-20. Now it's 50-50. What I mean by that is in my first years, it was all about production, maybe helping some other agents and people in my organization. Then the year after that was maybe a little bit less production like this year, and then helping more agents and really attract them and help them to build out some of these channels as well. My next endeavor, I feel like, is going to be more of a 50-50, if not leaning more towards attracting agents that want this type of marketing and this type of training, and to see if there isn't a collaboration and mutually beneficial partnership there. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help. And I've been able to, and that's the beauty of it, Remington, is that I've not only done it myself. I always ask myself, did I get lucky? Was it a timing thing? Maybe it was just because it was an Austin thing. Who knows, right? But in the past couple of years, I've been able to help agents, brand new agents like myself, and even seasoned agents that are maybe 10, 15-year veterans of the game, but they just want to enter into this new modern marketing strategy, And so I've seen my agents and teams from California, Washington, Tennessee, Kansas City, Florida, Virginia, DC, Chicago, New York, agents all over that have started new channels through both our group's training and my support and my training as well. And they've been able to break through in the market, and they're doing, I want to say all of them are getting similar results, but they're all getting results to be able to make a full-time income in real estate, utilizing untraditional methods,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking through your feed, and what's cool is you can see kind of the transition of you getting really good at this. And one of your videos says 3-year review. We left California for Austin, Texas. Are we moving back? Question mark. I love that. I love what you're doing with that. And the picture is you being strangled by what I assume is your
My
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, 2,000 people watch that, right?
Yeah.
And you got some videos that are like 5, 6, 8,000 views. And so some of your videos are literally just the caption, the subject is Perry Homes square footage, 4 beds, Austin, Texas. That's it. And even that video is getting a ton of views. So like once you start getting this following, the eyeballs, it's incredible like what you can do. And then being able to take that. So like, do you actually have a conversion rate where you can see, hey, based on this many views, I got X amount of leads and made this many sales? Or have you broke it down like that?
You know what? In the beginning I did. And I realized that I don't have that type of mind. I more or less just took on as much as I can take on. I can tell you right now, like it was a lot in the last couple of years. It's slowed down a little bit now, but it was a lot. And keep in mind, Remington, YouTube, like as much as we think of it as a social media platform, it's really a search engine. It's probably perhaps up there with Google as the most powerful search engine. The moment you have
I read
an
it's
issue,
number 2. It's right under Google, actually. Google and then YouTube. Yeah.
But we use it, right? Like if there's an issue in the household and we try to fix something, it's like the first thing I do is let's go to YouTube. I guarantee someone made a video about it already,
Yeah.
So what YouTube is what we call evergreen content. And what I mean by that is I will get a phone call probably today or tomorrow from a video that I'd made 2.5 years ago. Okay. So you can see how that's leverage and efficiency of time. And so when we talked about evergreen content, that Perry home, trust me, 2 years from now, they're going to still be making that floor plan, and someone's going to be interested in maybe buying that floor plan. They're going to look it up on Google and possibly YouTube, and then my video is going to come up. That video will present me as someone that knows that very well. And if it happens to be in this market, they're going to call me, And so YouTube for me is a form of evergreen content. It's like a house where you're putting in the major furnishings, right? Dining table, sofa, bed, And then as far as Instagram and these other things and shorts and all that, those are more like fresh flowers that you're putting in your home, right? They're going to be good the moment you put them in there. They're good for about 3 or 4 days, and then they start to wither a little bit, So YouTube is that evergreen content, and everything else is really just validation, validation for, your place in the market.
There's a agent in Washington, D.C., Daniel Hyder. I don't know if you know him. He is the #1 agent on TikTok, and he found that TikTok and Instagram were his avenues for conversion. So definitely, I think that would be an interesting conversation between the two of you. But But
to answer your question on that, Remington, I would say this. If you total the watch hours that I have last year on my YouTube channel, and you can find all this in YouTube Studio, Analytics, it equals to close to about 15 years of prospecting,
15. So, but when you say watch hours, that's how many minutes someone has spent watching your videos. It's not like a total plays. It's like how long someone has spent on your videos.
Yeah, it's watch time overall from all the videos combined, right? And so I look at that as I am prospecting these people that are watching. Yeah. I'll break it down even further. If someone asked you in an office today, hey, Remington, we want you to go cold call 100 people on this list. We want you to knock on 50 doors. You can do that. It might take you 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days to do all that, right? I can do that. I can put out a video, and that same effect could happen when I'm sleeping, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Soomin, this has been incredible. I love that you're a connector. I love that you bring in, you said it before, you would recruit no matter what brokerage you were at. This one just happens to pay you for it. But if I did want to find you and you found your Canadian mentor, someone might find you from across the country and you can help them out. Where can we find you?
I mean, Instagram is probably the easiest thing, at Soomin Kim Group, and if you just type my name in, actually there are other Soomins out there in the ether. So, so don't get confused, but yeah, I think Instagram is great. And I think YouTube is a great place to find me if you want to see more about kind of what we're discussing here and what I've been able to do with it.
Soomin, this has been great content, great YouTubes, and great story of getting into the industry. I'm sure we'll see you again soon. If you do not have a Real Producers in your city, you could be the person that brings it to that city, or you might know someone who could. Contact us at realproducersmag.com. We'll see you next time.
Heck yeah. Thank you.